Ladies and gentlemen, today is September 29th, 2012, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 52. I am your host, Kienan Lafferty. Today we are going to be doing a tutorial on creating a picture with a condensed and calculated color palette, as well as exploring some color relativity patterns and value relativity. But before we get into that, we are going to be going through the usual awesomeness. Here we go. First, we got to talk about the YouTube. Okay, so we are approaching 3,000 subscribers, and that is very awesome. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show, telling your friends about it. I'm very happy that I can entertain you with me checking a monitor at the ground. By the way, that was the monitor that was right here. It actually stopped working. I didn't destroy a perfectly good working monitor. Why would I do that? That'd be crazy. However, it did feel good. It allowed me to blow off some steam, and I'm a violent individual, so it feels good when I can get rid of things like that. So moving on. Oh, okay, so this is something really cool that I saw at work, kind of floating around. There's flyers and stuff. It's called the Indiecade, which is something that's happening, I think, in LA, October 4th through 7th. And this is something that I'm really excited about. And yeah, I just wanted to help spread the word and tell you guys about it. If you're into independent games, please go attend this. You may see me there if you decide to go. Moving on to the Twitter. For those of you who are following, thank you very much. For those of you who are not following, please follow, so that way I can tell you about things, mostly when I am uploading videos. Now we move on to Lovely Lane. So starting off from where we ended last time, we got our sexy niddlies and ladies. Hello. Modern Kale, this awesome fizz, Twilight Fizz. I love that. It was really cool. And then a lot of people are doing like these champion combinations. Like, I think this is really cool. I really like this. Oh, look at Lulu and Vagar. That's so precious. So once again, thank you guys for submitting stuff to the Facebook. I love you guys as always, and continue to do so. Now with all that out of the way, let us move on to the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is something called value relativity. I think that's it. If not, then I just made up a word, and I'm okay with that. So, as you can see here, we have a gradient. And as you can see, it goes from black to white, right? So, what's going to happen here is I am going to actually manually do this. That way you know I'm not cheating. I'm going to create a bar straight through this gradient and fill it with gray, with straight gray. And you're going to watch what happens. Let us pick our gray here. There we go. Alright. And let's fill it like that. Now, look, did you see exactly what I just did there? I filled it with one color, right? I did not fill it with a gradient. Yet, you look at it closely, and your mind translates the gray as going from lighter on this side to darker on this side. And this is because your brain interprets the darkness and the value of something by all of the things that surround it, right? So, and this also applies to color as well. So this is an exciting thing to take into your art repertoire and Jedi mind trick the people that are looking at your artwork. So, next we're going to be moving into basically the color relativity. So as you can see, I've got a red background here, right? And then I went ahead and did some quick little paint strokes, right, here. And you'll look very closely, and here, let's actually zoom in on it. You look closely, right, and it looks pretty green, right? But if you look closely, or I mean, if you actually were to go in and eyedrop this, we're looking very closely today. If you were to go in and eyedrop this, right, look at what color it actually is. It is green, but it's very, very desaturated, almost to the point of being gray. And now watch, as the color falls off, it's actually going to start going into the red, the desaturated red and orangish. Look at that. Let's actually move this over here. And then you can see it actually goes right back up into the red. So this is something that's really cool. You can actually paint green by using gray. And you can paint the transition of green by using dark orange and dark pink. It's really cool. So, before we move on to the next part, we are actually going to be coloring a sketch of Emma that I did. And before we go into that, I'm going to show you the time lapse of me actually doing said thingy. So let me pull that up. We need to actually get out of here. Get that out of here. Okay, so let's pull this up. And yes, come to us, QuickTime. Come to us. I would have rather done this in VLC, but whatever, it's all good. So let us begin this time lapse, and I'll talk about what exactly it is that I'm doing. Okay, so basically all I'm doing, as you can see, is I sketched in quickly the pose in a very, very light color, just because it's easier for me to work with, and just kind of like, you can see more with your imagination as opposed to working with a straight dark line. And then I go in and I start refining all of the little sketch marks. And yeah, just drawing in her boots. I wanted to give her a coat. Usually she has like a little dress, but I wanted to show basically the color relativity today. So we're giving her like a green coat and a green cap. And I'll show you how to paint those colors without using actual green. And it will be amazing. And it will be a limited color palette, and it will be pleasing to the eye, hopefully. Here's hoping. And if I do that, then we will have success. So actually what I'm doing here is I'm actually erasing the outer lines, right, with a very, very hard edge, like a full opacity brush. I call it the ink brush. And what happens is when you clean up the edges like that, it tends to make the drawing look cleaner and more finished, even though it's really still pretty sketchy. All you got to worry about is just the edges, right? Now I go back in and throw some extra details in there. Whoops. All the way to the end. So this is basically where we are. And I'll show you really quickly what I did on that. So here is Emma and her little coat. And basically what I did was, once I got the sketch all done, all I did was I took the eraser tool, and I got the ink brush, which is just a preset. And I can show you how to make this eventually. Probably not right now because it's actually kind of boring. But all I did was I just took the ink brush, which is a full opaque thing, and all I did was I went in and started trimming away the lines. And I don't have to push hard, which is nice. It'll save your hand. So make sure you do that. And then basically what I'll do is don't have to worry so much about the inside here. It's more about the outside. It's more on what's on the outside that counts, in this case. So your mind will perceive that sharp edge, and it will make it look a lot cleaner and a lot more finished than it actually is. Whereas on the inside, it's all still very, very loose and sketchy. So without further ado, let us paint this coat, and I'll show you how to paint green without actually using green. And this is actually one of the most mind-blowing discoveries that I ever made, or that I didn't make the discovery, but yeah, when I found out about it, it blew my mind. So look at what we're going to do here. We're actually going to grab that orangish color, right? And we're basically going to desaturate it and pull it down to the left. And what that's going to do is it is going to actually give us a limited color palette green. And it is going to be very pleasing to the eye, hopefully. We shall see. Let's go ahead and start coloring this in. So all I'm doing is I've got the lines up front as usual, and I'm going to paint behind them. So here we go. Watch this. You'll notice it is looking kind of gray, but as your eyes adjust to it, it'll actually start to become green. Actually, you know what? It's actually looking kind of blue. It's interesting. Very interesting. I think to push it more green, I think we'll probably add in a little bit more yellow, right? Because thinking in terms of the color wheel, that is what we would add to blue to make green. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's push it a little bit more towards yellow. Saturate it a little bit more. Let's go ahead and lock those pixels. This button right here, it locks everything that you've done so you won't paint out of it. Let's go ahead and throw that in there. Right in there. Look at that. We are actually painting, well, this looks like very vibrant green. That is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I still don't understand how it works. But you have to just kind of, when you're picking colors, you sort of have to think of what's there and what do you want to add to it, right? Not so much, oh, hey, this is green, I'm going to paint green. Because look, watch. If I pick this, again, look at what we're actually working with. Desaturated orange. Now, let's say, okay, it's a green thing, I'm going to paint it green, right? This is what I used to do, right? What this does is it actually kind of takes you out of the fantasy, I guess. Like, once you start painting this green in there, it's like it's two primary colors that are existing in the same space, right? You have this really red, right? And then you have this really green. And what that does is it's sort of like your mind sort of reads that, and it's like that couldn't exist in real life. And, well, it usually wouldn't exist in real life. So your mind will kind of push it away and be like, okay, this is not believable or pleasing to my eye. Things that are pleasing to your eye, I've noticed, are things that are believable. Things that are believable and look natural. They kind of fool you into thinking, believing something, even if it's just a drawing. And I think that's what we like. That's what we strive to do. So you can see, basically, to make it a darker green, all I'm doing is I'm just pushing it down, right? Saturating it a tiny bit. Isn't that interesting? So let's go ahead and just throw in a quick little shadow here. Let's make it backlit. That'll make it more dramatic. So we'll put all the shadow over here. And as you go to the shadows, I've said this in a previous daily, is as you go to the shadows, you can feel free to saturate a little bit more. Because that's usually how I like to work. I like to push the shadows more saturated and darker. And then the lights, I tend to keep them desaturated. And kind of push them a little bit towards yellow, it seems like. Seems like when you do that, it ends up creating a pleasing effect. So we'll push it a little bit more towards yellow, desaturate it a tiny bit. Let's actually go all the way. Let's go really close to gray. Let's see what this gives us. Actually, I don't like that. Let's go here. It's alright. Actually, you know what? I realized something. I think we might want to go even more saturated here. Let's see what that does really quick. Yeah, you know what? I don't like it. It's weird. It starts to push it. It starts to push it too far away from what I'm looking for. So what I'm actually going to do is this. I'm going to take this color over here because I like this color. I'm going to throw it in there. Throwing in the lights. Cool. Let's go ahead and throw in some reflected light on the other side. Let's push it towards this, like, let's do this. Let's grab this, like this pinkish, this dark pink. Let's see what that does on the other side. That'll help to create what we call ambient light, right? Because you got all this red around. If you throw in a little bit more of that ambient light with it, you'll start to make it feel more like she's there, right? So let's throw in a little bit of ambient light in these shadows. And again, this is all very sketchy, and it's not very, like, probably not going to end up rendering this, but I'm just showing you a few, like, concepts that allow me to create condensed color palettes. And again, the way I'm blending is, I showed you guys before, is I've got my brush out, and then all I do is alt-click something, and it's got the color there, and I start painting with it a little bit, and as they mix, I'll alt-click that, right? Until it looks kind of like what I'm going for, you know? Until it looks acceptable. Until it looks acceptable. Just a tiny bit of highlights here. Let's push it a little bit towards green, just a tiny bit. just a tad to help pull that out. And then another thing that I like to do, depending on the surface, but more often than not, like the transition point between a light and a dark, if you saturate it just a tiny bit, it tends to help the transition look a little bit more believable too. Like see, it goes from here. Like let's examine this. Let's examine this a little bit closely, or a little bit closer. Throwing this in here, throwing this in here. And basically what this is doing is it's helping to explain the material. It's helping to explain the material, and it will help make your drawings look more believable if you saturate just a tiny bit between the transitions. So look, all I'm doing is I'm taking this, right? All I did was I saturated and pull it down a little bit, right? And that's basically giving us the transition. Looks like it's a little yellow too. I don't know. I'm not sure. Again, this is actually, there's a lot of experimentation in this, and it's something to actually get excited about. You shouldn't ever know exactly what you're looking for, right? Or you shouldn't know, you should know what you're looking for, but I'm never at a point where I'm like, oh, okay, I know exactly what colors to mix. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's more like when you're in this zone of creating color without actually using it, it just comes down to subtle experimentation and subtle variations on what you want. It's hard to explain. Hard to explain, but I hope that makes sense. Man. So now you can see, now that your eyes have like fully adjusted to this, like this green looks super green. But you click it and it's just, you would have never guessed that it was that color. That's like really desaturated, nasty yellow orange. But you can make it look awesome like this, depending on what colors surround it, right? So let's move on to, let's go ahead and paint the rest of this. Let's just see how it works. I'm going to paint her skin. So I want her skin to be pretty saturated because it's in this lighting scheme. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's see. What do I want? Looks pretty good. Now let's start with that. Color this in, color in all her skin really quickly. Oh, and another thing that I've learned, when you're doing lines and you want to go clean up the edges, like I said, if you want to quickly have a clean look, you just clean up the edges, right? But it's also very important to clean up the skin. Like down here, you see where these like little extra like fragments and artifacts remain. Those tend to make the skin look a little bit more like old and dirty. So like where there's skin showing, make sure you go in and clean that up and make it look really nice. That's pretty much the only place you got to worry about. It seems like the clothes can have that because it gives them texture and age, makes them look cooler. But yeah, the skin, I would definitely err on the side of making it clean. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw in the shadow here, right? Let's go ahead and push it really, really saturated, really dark. So we got the shadow, or we got the light coming in from there. So put this side of her face in darkness, as Nocturne would put it. Yes, that was a LOL reference. Okay, that's cool. Oh, and I learned a really awesome way to shape faces, especially stylized ones like this, really easily. And I'll show you guys that in a feature daily. Or not only stylized faces, but actually realistic faces too. And now the skin. You guys remember I was talking about materials, right? And there was a quick tutorial I did on skin that involved bunny girl ribbon. A way to simulate skin and show off the transition is to definitely, you want to have like a yellow light, like your yellow highlights, right? And kind of saturated, right? Let's go ahead and throw that in some spots where we know it would be hitting very harshly, like here. Oh! Oops. Like here. here, and here, right? Let's go ahead and kind of blend that. Oh, that's not blending. Let's go ahead and blend that in a little bit, right? But then, the transition points, right? Remember the transition points. The transition points should be saturated, right? So this is almost doing it right here, right? But look at this transition from the light to the, what's the word? Local. From the light to the local, it should be saturated, right? And this simulates subsurface scattering, which is basically what happens when the light enters your skin and it bounces around on all the little blood particles and then shoots back out into your eyes. And yeah, what that does is it creates like a saturated transition between the light and the shadow. So you can see basically what I'm doing here. You can play around with different variations of it, but I really like it when it gets really saturated, like here, right? And then it cools off into this area, right? Cools off really nicely. Yeah, I like that. Basically, I'm taking the ambient color, putting it back in her face a little bit. So help, again, to show the environment she's in. And look at how subtle of a change that is, right in there. From this color here I'll circle it. From this color here to this color here, right? There's just very, very subtle things that are happening there. So much of what happens in color variation, especially when it comes to skin. I once heard somebody say it, it's like we're able to tell the health of somebody, like how they're feeling, how old or young they are, you know, a lot by very, very subtle changes in the skin and the color, right? So use this to your advantage. You can get away with very, very small changes to the skin, and it will make big differences in the quality of your drawing. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing colors, like a slightly lighter color for the eye here. Actually, maybe I'll keep it red, just to help sell the fact that it's being affected by the ambient light. And you'll notice that by whatever environment is around your character, and this specifically is red, but it usually wouldn't be red. Most of the time you're going to be dealing with skylight and stuff like that. When you're dealing with skylight, it basically has a tendency to push all of your shadows to like a dark blue, right? And in this case, they're just kind of going to red. But again, it's all about atmosphere, right? And color relativity. So let's look at this nose here. Like I'm going to show you something, especially with the nose. There's a high amount of subsurface scattering that happens in the nose because it's a very translucent part of your body, right? There's not a lot of bone or anything. I mean, there's just cartilage, obviously, and a lot of blood, right? So when light hits that, it's going to saturate very, very heavily. So let's go ahead and take the color that is there, that is the shadow, we're going to saturate it. Put that right there. Let's go ahead and have a really high saturated value here between the light and the nose. See, look at that small change that I did. Look at how much it affected the overall composition. Oops, a little too much. Let's put a little highlight on there. There we go. It's pretty cool. I like it. I like it. Blend in just a tiny bit. Cool with me. Cool with me. Alright, so the skin is done. Again, you can see how basically we've chosen a light source and we are making sure that it is consistent coming from the back over here. I just painted red on red. Or did I? Oh no, it's just locked. The light source is coming from here, right? So we want to make sure that everything that is hitting, or that is getting hit by the light, is consistent. Now I've noticed that with the skin, this is appearing a little bit more like we're getting more local color from the skin than we are from this coat, right? So I'm actually going to go back to the coat, and I'm going to fix that, right? Because we're all about consistency. Let's actually push this a little bit more yellow and saturated. See if that will give us more of that white light feeling. I think it is. I think it is. Let's go a little bit more towards orange, because it seems like that's what kind of brings us back into that limited color palette. I feel like that is probably a little bit closer. Just tiny change. Woo! So tiny. And there you have it. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more brightness to it too. Maybe that's what we're lacking. Yeah, that's what we need. We need more intensity. Intensities. It's a good song. You should look it up. Alright, I'm liking that. Alright, so basically what we did right there is we went back and fixed up the coat, and we realized that the light source was just not feeling exactly shoot, I keep forgetting. Consistent. It was not feeling consistent, and we like consistency, so we went back and fixed that. Next, let's move on to the hair. Let's do the hair in this awesome red ambience. So let's go ahead and grab this. Since it is yellow in a red atmosphere, naturally we're going to go towards a orange, right? And let's see what desaturating this orange more towards this will give us. Again, it's all about a little bit of experimentation. That's actually appearing very green. All right? Look at that. But that might not be a bad thing. Let's go ahead and just paint it in really quick, and then we'll go back and we'll lock the pixels and fix it up to that which we desire. This is pretty sweet. Maybe I'll make this the cover of my first comic when I release it. It's pretty cool. Oh, another thing, look what I do is I take this light that's hitting here, and I'm actually going to throw a little bit of that on the underside of the bill of the hat. Because that is reflected light, ladies and gentlemen. And that actually happens, believe it or not. Light reflects off of everything. And it doesn't stop. It never stops. It goes everywhere. Alright. So that is our first one. We're going to go ahead and lock those pixels. Let's experiment with a little bit more. From here, we're going to go up and to the right. Let's see if that'll give us a bit more like a lively blonde feeling. Yeah, that looks like it's working. Yeah, I like that. Let's go ahead and go for our dark. Let's push it more towards a red and saturate it. Yes! I do like that. Still looking a little bit muddy, so let's go a little bit more, let's go more saturated. That's more what we're looking for. Yes! A little bit. Still a little too saturated. Let's go back to what we had. Cool. Liking that. And also keep in mind how the values of the face and the hair work, right? Because you want this face to stand out against the hair. So sometimes the thing that I'll do is I'll go in and I'll be like, okay, I want to push this area very, very dark, right? To help pop out the face that's right beside it, right? So I'll throw in that dark color, kind of blend it around a little bit. And basically what that does is it allows the face to come forward a little bit more. And it reads better because there's a darker color next to it. And that, my friends, is Jedi Mind Trick Madness. So let's go ahead and throw in some color for this hair. Light's coming this way, so we're going to be getting hit here. Let's go ahead and push it more towards red. I don't like how out of... Yeah, there we go. That's feeling right. See what we did there? We're looking at this, but because of the transitions and the colors that are being relative next to each other, your mind discerns what true color that is. Let's add in a little bit of saturation next to those light sources to simulate a little bit more of the material that's happening there, and that is the hair. There's also a lot of subsurface stuff that happens within the hair. Go a tiny bit towards yellow. Basically, I think the best way to describe what I'm doing here is, think of it as like you're a ship at sea, right? You're in the middle of the ocean. You don't know exactly where you're at that point, right? But you can make the calculation as to where the nearest island is, and you can start sailing that direction. So what that means is you want to paint blonde hair, right? So naturally, your mind would be like, okay, I'm going to grab yellow. But in this occurrence, in this atmosphere, in this surrounding, what you're actually going for is this color right here. It's this desaturated orange, right? And normally you wouldn't think that. I mean, well, I guess you could paint blonde with desaturated orange. Well, I'm sure it's probably in there somewhere. But you know what I mean. It's not just like straight yellow. So this has a lot to do with constraining your palette and choosing colors deliberately and making it an overall more enjoyable experience for your viewer. And again, look, I'm taking that ambient, throwing it into the shadows. Ambient color, throwing it into the shadows. And still, it doesn't feel like that hair is becoming red. It feels like it's being affected by the atmosphere. And it doesn't throw off our sense of, okay, this is blonde hair. A little highlight there. Let's go ahead and give her a really tough highlight. Going through there, like that. Again, this is describing the material. Because that highlight is there, we infer that it is more glossy. Yes. I like that. I like that quite much. Alright, let's move on to the boots. Move on to the booties. How long have we been going? 32 minutes. Awesome. By the way, I am using some new software. It is amazing. It's called Camtasia, like Fantasia, except with a camcorder. And basically, the things of the past, the audio-video synchronization going away, and the laggy video cam, those are all things of the past, ladies and gentlemen, because we have new technology. And we can all celebrate and revel in that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the boots, and then we'll conclude the KNKL Daily, episode 52. So the boots, we're going to go for like a gray, right? So, because they're gray, they're going to be more affected by the red atmosphere. That is going to turn it to a dark pink, generally speaking. So let's go ahead and throw that in. See, that looks gray. That looks gray to us. However, if we were to choose real gray, watch what happens. They turn blue! Or greenish blue! Absolutely amazing. Can you see why this is such an important lesson to be learning and why I was so excited to teach you guys about this? It boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. It really does. Every day. Every day it boggles the mind. Okay, let's go ahead and throw in our light source here. Yeah, it's looking good, looking good. Let's take care of this boot really quick. Not going to worry too much about that one since it's the background one. Go ahead and remove these boots. There we go. And for the transition color, we're going to saturate just a tiny bit. Let's see what that does. That's not what I want. See what I just did there? I looked at it, and that was making my mind believe that it was a different material than it really is. And I think why that is because boots, when the light hits the boot, it actually doesn't like pass through it and then come back out and refract in all these different areas. So it's actually just going to be a bit more of a just a regular transition. Like you can literally probably just blend these colors together and you don't have to worry about saturating the color between the transition, and it will look fine. Yeah, it is. It's crazy. That's giving me the material that I want right there. So always be thinking about that. Think about what material am I trying to create here? What am I trying to create as far as the material here? And then make sure that you just kind of inspect it with your mind. And then you should be able to get to that point very easily. Going back to that ship analogy, basically you're out in the middle of the ocean, right? And you're like, okay, I want this to appear as like a leather type of boot, right? And then you know that you want it to appear gray, right? But you won't go to gray because then that'll give you blue, right? Or you could go to gray. Could go to gray, right? And you're like, oh, that looks too blue, right? So then you'll know, okay, well, let's think about it. If it's gray, it's being affected by the red, so we're going to go more towards red. And that will give you more of the color that you're looking for. Hope that makes sense. In fact, going back and looking at this, looking at all the colors and stuff and how they're interacting here, I think the coat is actually too green now. So we're going to go ahead and go back and desaturate that a tiny bit. And I'm going to add some more shadow to these boots because they're much too bright, and that is turning them green. There we go. There we go. Alright, so let's go back and just change this coat really quick. And I'm going to do it the easy way and just hit Control U and drop down the saturation. Okay. Now, you'll notice I actually just desaturated this completely. And notice the color that it changed it to. It actually changed it to like a dark blue. Is that mind-boggling or what? And we'll just go ahead and choose this and look at it. It's straight gray. So let's go back. I actually want it to appear more green. So maybe we'll kind of shift the hue a little bit. Oh, whoops. Wrong hue. That's closer to what I want. Oh. Just kind of playing around with it just a tiny bit. Cool. Now actually what I noticed is that it's not that I want it to push it to green. I actually just want it to look a little bit more gray. So to make it look more gray, what we're going to do is actually just add more red into it, right? So let's grab red and make it kind of desaturated. Let's add a little bit more red to this coat. Dark red for the shadows. Okay, that's looking good. That's what I'm looking for, right there. It's looking good. Oh, the lines are starting to we're starting to lose the lines a little bit. So let's go back in there and just paint the lines only by selecting them on their own layer, grabbing a darker color, and locking the pixels. And go back in and paint these lines back in. Make sure that they are our darkest parts. In some areas. Again, I'm not worrying so much about these areas. Just in the parts where we're losing it. And then what I'll probably do is end up, like, to finish this up, I'll probably just kind of go through and just kind of touch up the lines. Like in the hair, I'll go back and paint it a little bit more orange. You know, in this area of the end of the coat, I'll go back in and paint it a little bit more gray, aka green. Just to kind of soften those edges, make it look a little bit more presentable. Yes! Cool, I'm liking that. And then the skin, saturate it just a tiny bit more. Go ahead and paint those lines in. Yes! So I hope this helps answer a lot of questions having to do with like color relativity and how to create a piece with a limited palette. You want to think about your atmosphere, basically. Like in this case, it's red. So you want all of your colors to kind of stay around that area. You can have some punch colors, and where the light is really hitting, that's where like the more local colors will come out. Like if it's a green thing, if it's a green coat, your colors are going to shift a little bit more towards green, like gray-green, right, for where the light is hitting it. So again, it's really hard to explain, and I hope that this tutorial has shown you basically the thought process that goes into creating a piece with a limited palette and a more believable palette. And yeah, I hope you guys can take this, do some experiments with it. If it helps you out a lot, please post it to the Facebook. Before I go, however, I do want to talk about a few things. Let's see. Oh, one thing I want to talk to you guys about is if I were to actually do a comic in a style similar to this, would you guys like it? Or would you feel that it's too rough, too kind of, what's the word? It would have looked sloppy, right? I'm planning on probably cleaning up the lines a little bit more, maybe reducing the color shading. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but basically, would you like a comic that was in that style? Please let me know. Also, I am going to be moving over this weekend. I'm actually moving to a new place, so next week we are going to be doing our show from the new bedroom, and it is going to be amazing. There's going to be cheetah walls, and it's going to look pretty awesome. So, yeah. I hope to see you guys then. Until then, I hope you enjoyed episode 52 of the KNKL Show. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. I'm Kienan Lafferty, and I will see you guys next week.